こんばんは。お久しぶりです。自称 YouTuber ことTAKAO47が、ですね、カナダの油田地帯で出稼ぎ労働者というタイトルで、YouTube を昨年からやらせていただいてるんですが、ついにですね、前回にも、予告しました通りですね、今日は特別な出演者を迎えて、インタビューをさせていただきたいと思うんですけども、今日は、この YouTube のシーズン2エピソード2っていうことでね、なんだかんだ言って今でも一応私の奥さんであられますね、フィンさんっていう方にね、フィンさんっていうのは芸名なんですけど、ちょっといろんなことを最近のカナダの社会情勢のね混沌なんかも含めてね、いろいろインタビューしたいんですけども、タイトルはですね、今日のインタビューのタイトルはね、ポッドキャストインタビュー、クエスチョン、ビッグなクエスチョンとしてね、How's the Canadian Dream disappeared? っていうことで、カナダ人の夢は消滅したのかっていうことですね。この、アメリカン人にはですね、アメリカンドリーっていうラグ&リッチストーリーみたいな、そういう超貧乏人から成功して大金持ちになるっていう、なんていうんですかね、アメリカンドリームみたいなんですけど、多分カナダ人にはそういう野心的なその夢っていうんですか、そういうのはないと思うんですけども、いろいろ一応北米なんでね、似たような文化もあるんで、一応いろんなカナダ人も今後ね、質問を伺っていきたいと思うんですけども、大体僕もねこれでねいろんな人にね質問するためのインタビューの質問を25個ほど準備しまして、大体インタビューする人にねその人のバックグラウンドとか個人史、そしてね家族や仕事、日常生活についての質問とかね、あとそれからもうちょっとね突き詰めたねどうしてそのカナダ人の夢は消滅しつつあるのかっていう質問ですね。それからあと何ですか、ちょっと炎上しそうな質問ですね。これは別に全員の人が答えてくれるとは思わないんですけど、ちょっとねこれは面白いから聞いてみようかなっていう感じで、それであと最後ね個人的なね見解とかね夢とかもね夢っていうか知恵もね聞いてみたいと思うんですけども、そういう感じでねぼちぼちでね第1回目の特別なインタビューこれがねたまたま私のねなんだかんだ言って今のところ奥さんのねフィンさんっていう方にねインタビューすることになったんですけどもね、これからやるのは質問は英語でやってきますんで、私もねアクセントがあるなりにね一応英語喋れますんで、それで彼女に質問をしてでフィンさんが答えてくれて、それで大体下にですね字幕でね和訳をする予定なんですけども、そういう感じでね形式でやっていきたいと思います。だから回答を文字起こしして私が和訳を載せるっていう感じになるんですかね。いいや、とりあえずやっていきたいと思いますけども、でね最初クエスチョンということでね個人史なんかから聞いていきたいんですけども、 Anyway, thanks for the participating in this first interview to Canadian people about how the Canadian dream disappeared. Thanks for the participating thing. So, without further ado, I want to ask a few questions about your personal history. Anyway, so first question. I think you have lived in Saskatchewan for all your life. So what life like here when you were growing up?
I don't know. It was just life. I was a child, so it was what my parents made it. We had a home. My parents owned their own home. We lived in a small town. Population was less than 1,000 people.
Whoa.
So it was very small.
That's like a hamlet almost.
Yeah.
Or village or something. You don't have to tell the specific name of the town.
No,
but,
I won't.
yeah.
But it had, we had 2 grocery stores and a post office and a library. And we had an elementary school and a high school.
Yeah, sounds typical rural.
So pretty typical rural Saskatchewan,
Yeah.
small town.
Yeah, I've been there, so I can
Yeah.
picture.
And we had, it was a farming community, so mostly farmers.
Yeah. So when you are growing up in that kind of rural setting, you never thought about so-called Canadian dream or something, because everybody's life seems to be fairly similar, and you don't.
Yes, I think growing up there was kind of an expectation that my life would probably follow the same trajectory that my parents and my grandparents' lives had followed.
Okay, unless someone decide to do something else that's like a really oddball.
It was unusual, yeah.
Okay, I see. I can tell. I'm the kind of person to be oddball in that kind of small committee. So that's why I came here to do something else, but that's not the topic of interview. So when you were young, what did the Canadian dream meant to you personally?
I don't remember anybody actually talking about specifically the Canadian dream as a Canadian dream. Like, it was just being able to live your life, and the expectation that you would have, a home and food on the table and a job, and
yeah, right.
I don't remember anybody in my hometown, thinking that they were going to get rich or anything like that. It was just, as long as they were able to make a reasonable living, to keep to own a house.
Okay. But from what I observe, your community, the surrounding area, is kind of a resource-rich region of Saskatchewan. Not necessarily what resource, I won't name it, but so compared to other region of Saskatchewan, it's kind of easy to make quite a bit of income compared to some rural area have just.
Yes, to some degree, if you owned mineral rights in that area, then obviously you would have more disposable income than the average farmer.
Yeah.
But the mineral rights, like the big oil booms, didn't come in until the late 1980s, early 90s.
Okay.
So by then I was a teenager and about to go off to university, and
Okay.
so that wasn't a part of my early life.
Okay, and I don't think that I think that the young Canadian girl don't particularly interested in becoming a league peak or something like that. That's
Honestly, at that point in time, a girl becoming a rig pig was never an option. There was very distinct gender roles that women don't become rig pigs.
Even to date, I hardly see, like, I worked in like Grand Prairie and Port McMurray.
Yeah,
I hardly see.
It's still uncommon, I would say. I think women in trades
is fairly.
The women that are in the trades have a fairly hard time of it.
Yeah.
Still, I think there's not a lot of gender equality when it comes to that.
Yeah, so I understand your point. So yeah, like when you work in a patch, I see like a geologist or engineer or inspector. There's more female, but these trades job or this like
the ones
labor.
that are like more heavily labor intense.
Yeah, labor.
I mean, to some degree, it's a case of most women just don't have the muscle mass.
Yeah.
To do those jobs.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. But so you don't have particularly specific Canadian dream in terms of the materialistic gain.
No.
Okay. So your dream is more like having a stable home and food on the table, like your parents' generation did.
Yes.
Nowadays, because so many people is depending on food bank, I heard like one in the fifth people having hard time making end meets because high inflation rate, the top among the G7 nation actually. So it's kind of hard. Anyway, so the third question is, did you feel optimistic about your future when you were in your 20s? Why or why not?
For me personally, my 20s were a really difficult time.
Okay.
I was diagnosed with lupus when I was 23.
Yeah.
And so that really put a lot of the hopes and dreams that I had for my life on hold while I figured out how to deal with that.
Yeah.
So I didn't think in that way that I wasn't a typical 20-something person.
Yeah, my personal story is kind of similar because I came here as an international student at 25 in 1997, July. So I don't know anything about Canadian dream or anything like that, but I try to. My initial intention to come into Canada was basically get degree and going back to Japan or anything like that. And then something is happened and I stayed unexpectedly really long time, like more than quarter century. But like your situation, my situation is very similar because after I was a student in the mid-20s, and obviously I wasn't making like a income during that time, so I'm not economically not in good standing compared to other folks in Japan or someone working in Canada in 20s, because majority of people have that stage in life is working on some kind of disposable income much bigger than me when I was a student at 25, 26, 20, 28 or something like that. Anyway, so you are not so optimistic back then like me because you were in a sick situation. I was kind of pretty poor. I was pretty poor student situation. So kind of understand that. So next question is, what milestone once felt achievable that now seems harder for your younger generation?
Well, I think the idea that everybody can own their own home. I think these days it's pretty far-fetched for a lot of young people to think that they'll ever be able to own their own home.
Mm-hmm.
Inflation has put that dream out of reach for a lot of people.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anything else other than the housing market?
I think one thing that's become less possible is travel.
Oh yes.
To,
Yeah.
When in the 90s to early 2000s, it was really common for people to travel in the winter, to go down to Mexico for their hot holidays, to get away from,
Okay, I see.
escape from Canadian winters. But I think in this economic situation we're in now, that's just not an option for a lot of people anymore. And given, the recent political climate too.
Okay. So when you're young, there's more people actually were doing snowboarding
Yes.
in a southern part of the States or
Mexico.
Okay.
Cuba, yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of the people I know is more let's say most Canadian people I know is not financially successful people per se. So most of the friends I know don't have that kind of luxury to maybe going to like a British Columbia, coastal region, something like that. But not necessarily like a traveling internationally or anything like that. So okay, so that economic strain is like people cannot travel internationally. That makes sense. Yeah, especially the fuel price is increasing right now. So yeah. So the last question for this, your personal story or something like that, is how has your community changed over the years, socially, economically, or culturally?
Well, I moved away from that small town when I was 25.
Is that a good thing or bad thing?
I think it was a good thing in some ways.
For what reason?
Well, it opened up my options as far as job opportunities.
Okay. You don't have to be a farmer's wife.
Yeah. Or a ratepay's wife.
Okay. So you decided, at one point, you decided to become a wife of a Japanese person. Or somehow Japanese cultural background. Anyway, so.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else you noticed change socially, economically, or anything like that?
Well, I think that just the expansion of, for me as a woman, more opportunities for women in, a wider range of job fields. We're not stuck being teachers or secretaries or nurses anymore. There's a much wider variety of job possibilities than there were
compared to
to
rural area.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, even men's, I think the job option is limited in rural area as well. But yeah, that makes sense. ね、カナダ人の夢は消滅したのか、Has the Canadian Dream disappeared っていう話題で質問を続けていきたいと思うんですけども、今度はですね、フィンさんの家族、仕事、そしてね日常生活でね、このカナディアンドリームっていうのがどういう価値があったのかっていうことをねお伺いしていきたいと思いますね。Finn, so I have a couple questions for this work and everyday life related aspect regard to Canadian Dream. So I'm going to ask you couple questions. So the sixth question is, what's owning a home, raising a family, and building stability easier in the past? What's made possible back then?
Yes, I think it was easier in the past. And largely changes in the economy, have driven those changes. The oil prices
and the
are
box
a big driver in Western Canada. I think at the height of the oil boom, when oil prices were really high.
Yeah, I think especially area you lived in, but
and when when oil prices drop, then people's financial stability drops too, right?
Yeah, because that's a boom bust type of economy in
Yeah, it really is. And unless people are really planning ahead for those bust periods, a lot of people didn't think that boom would ever end, or they seemed to live that way anyways. And when it did crash, people's lifestyles crashed too.
But I know a person kind of scavenging these foreclosure items too. So anyway, so I think another thing is, back in the days, like say even like the 80s or 90s, I think taxation rate is lower, right? Like income tax and
To some degree, yes.
GST and PST.
Yeah. Although in the early 80s, like interest rates were really high. I can recall my parents bought a house in 1980 at 18.5%
Whoa.
interest rate on a mortgage. So
That's crazy.
that is, their mortgage payment didn't even cover the interest. Never mind touch the principal.
Oh, so how they catch up to make
Well, eventually the interest rates
okay, I see.
went down and they were able to get ahead again, but it took a while.
Okay.
But they were young and had a young family at the time.
Yeah. So the raising family and building stability is easier for sure back then, like in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I think once the interest rates
Okay.
came down, it was definitely easier.
I think that is Finn's rural experience, but I think I could stretch to the urban area too. I'm assuming that's in Western Canada.
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So seventh question. Now, what kind of jobs supported a middle class life when you were younger?
Well, my dad was a long haul truck driver. He drove truck.
Yeah.
And my mom worked as a receptionist for a truck dealership.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was pretty typical.
Okay. Yeah, because that occupation provided okay income to sustain that middle class lifestyle.
Yeah.
Back in the days, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my parents were never well off. Yeah. And they did, often it was paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
And until my mom was a stay-at-home mom until I was 12. She didn't go back to work until I was 12.
Yeah.
So they made ends meet on my dad's income up until that point.
Yeah, I think my family is very similar. Yeah.
My mom went back to work. She went back to work because she needed a new sofa.
Okay.
She was gonna just work long enough to get a sofa and then quit.
Somehow.
But somehow, that little bit of extra income that she got from her job,
Mm-hmm.
She realized that she really liked working outside the home, and
Hooked up her
and by that point,
excess.
as kids, we were fairly old enough to be a little bit independent, and our grandparents lived 3 blocks away, so
okay.
we always had adults around that we could run to if we had trouble.
I didn't know about that story about your mother, which happened to be my mother-in-law at this point, was drive to work in a dealership. Anyway, so 9th question. Have you personally experienced a financial pressure that didn't exist decades ago?
Yes. I think decades ago, women were expected to get married and depend on their husbands.
Mm. Yeah. Which is me.
Whereas now, women are expected to be more independent, to make their own incomes, to make their own livings, but we're also expected to keep the home, do the cooking, do the cleaning, do the laundry, and keep a full-time job on top of all of those other things.
I was doing house chore too, by the way, so.
Yes, you were.
Yeah.
But as husbands go, you were maybe an exception.
Really, you think so?
Yeah.
So
There's a lot of husbands that don't do those kind of inside work, inside chores.
really?
They leave that to their wives. They might take out the garbage, mow the lawn, shovel the snow.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of wives that end up shoveling the snow too.
Yeah, I haven't seen that, so yeah. Okay, so
Not in all cases.
yeah.
By
So-
any stretch, but there's a lot of pressure on women to be perfect wives, perfect mothers, perfect housekeepers, perfect at their jobs.
Exact.
Well, nobody is perfect, right? So something is going to slip, and if you want to maintain the income and the lifestyle that goes with that income, it's the personal stuff that's going to slip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your house might not be perfectly clean, or your laundry might not get done on a weekly basis.
That is kind of a quintessentially picturesque middle class Canadian dream,
Pretty
which
much.
is hard to achieve nowadays. It's like Walking Dead Rick Grimes says, like, what he says, like Sunday morning breakfast was a pancake and all these BS. Well, I don't eat pancake anyway, so it really doesn't matter anyway.
But yeah, the dream was the perfect picture of perfect family and having Sunday brunch and,
yeah,
you know,
that seems to be very North American, but
yes.
that's, let's say,
No doubt that it is. Yeah. I think as Canadians, so much of the media, the social media, the movies, the books, everything that we get is very American. So a lot of what you're calling the Canadian dream is kind of a reflection of the so-called American dream.
I see.
There's definitely a big influence there.
I see. Some kind of a cultural brainwashing from Hallmark movies and TV dramas and stuff like that. Anyway, so for the 10th question, what worries you most about the future for young people in Saskatchewan? Wow, that good sound effect for the interview. This is the kitties. Freya jumping off from the piled up container making big noise. Thank you for sound effect. I won't cut this section because it's too funny. I'm going to put your face in this podcast because you should be in the pictures. So everybody should know this naughty face anyway. So
yeah.
So any comment about this, your concern for the young people in Saskatchewan?
Well, I do worry about the future. I mean, people are experiencing really difficult economic times. There's job shortages and pressures from, economic higher interest rates, inflation, job pay rates that are not increasing at the same rate that the inflation is going.
Yeah.
And I think people are struggling a lot more.
Yeah. So, yeah, I have the same kind of feeling about this, what's going on in this country right now. I'm just thinking about working different place, might going back to Japan. And I've seen so many people, Canadian people, decide to moving out of Canada elsewhere to look for opportunity or retire even in South America. It's kind of shocking anyway, but that's kind of makes sense. But I heard all the Canadian folks telling me like Dust Bowl 20s, 30s, like a Great Depression area. Mm-hmm. Do you think that by now is comparable to that kind of period of time? Because back then there's no social security or kind of safety net per se.
I don't think we're in quite that situation.
Better than.
I think we're better off now than they were in the 30s during the Depression. Because that was largely environment driven.
Yeah.
Right. It was.
Yeah.
A lot of that was due to that 10-year drought that happened.
Yeah.
And
That-
people,
That's why I couldn't grow commercial crop in Saskatchewan.
it's kind of hard to grow a garden if there's no soil,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay. So, assuming by now, 2026 is much better than Great Depression time back in the days. インタビューを、続けていきたいんですけども、ちょっとこれはですね、深い、質問になるんですけども、ディープダイブクエスチョンっていうことで、ちょっと答えにくいような質問もあるかと思うんですけども、引き続いてね、フィンさんに質問を続けていきたいと思います。So Finn, I want to continue this couple more questions about deep dive about this Canadian dream is fading kind of topic. So the next question is, when did you first start feeling that something had changed in Canada?
Well, I mean, things change constantly, so I don't know if there was a particular point where I noticed it starting.
Okay.
Looking back, you can sort of see that things have changed. Sorry, my cat is
That's okay. I've been seeing too, so.
causing trouble. I don't know. I think declining birth rates
Okay.
have definitely impacted and resulted in more of a push to attract immigrant workers.
Yeah.
And not just workers, but doctors, medical professionals too. As populations increase, the demand for doctors also increases.
But this birth rate decrease is not necessarily only a Canadian problem.
No, I think it's happening in a lot of countries.
Yeah, so I think it's a global issue. It's a problem in Japan, but also a lot of developed country as well as so-called developing country also has birth rate decrease, except Africa.
Yeah. Well, and I think as you talk about that boom and bust cycle, that when things get into a boom situation, people tend to have fewer children.
Really? I didn't know that.
Now I don't have facts to back this up.
Yeah.
My feeling is that the more affluent you are, the more, or I should say, the less willing you are to make the sacrifices to have more children. I think poorer families tend to have more children.
Yeah. I can see that it's like
Right.
a child is more like an insurance policy for the parents
Yeah.
back in the days. Yeah, that makes sense. Like you said, like a ethnoculture change in a workplace due to mass migration. I can feel that similar situation because when I come to Saskatchewan in 1997, there's a very few brown people in a university or even McDonald's or any franchise restaurant or anything like that. So I have a feeling this to me like a deliberate change is kind of. I'm brown guy from Japan myself. Kind of surprised to say, but there's a definitely impact in this achieving Canadian dream. Yeah.
And I think the idea of the Canadian dream was maybe a propaganda thing that was aimed at attracting immigrants, as opposed to being something that was shared here by people who were, you know, born and raised in Canada and were just living our lives.
That makes sense because for someone from developing country, no health care or something.
It would be really attractive.
Very attractive even. For someone grow up in Saskatchewan, the state of healthcare is kind of, I would say,
It's gone downhill.
Downhill,
considerably
but
since I was a kid.
yeah, but someone came from like India or Pakistan, it's still that's dream because they don't have access. Whereas people like me came from Japan, I'm kind of upset from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, bluntly honest. But for some people, this is really good situation for them, good for them, but not so good for me.
It's a matter of perspective.
Yeah. So anyway, so 12th question. In your view, what are the biggest factors behind the decline? Housing, wage, cost of living, something else?
I mean, those are all factors, definitely. I'm not an economist or even a historian, so I can't. I'm not sure I can really speak to that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, but for the
Except in really general terms, and in my head, it's interest rates, inflation, world politics and economics, the tariffs imposed by the United States. There's a lot of international pressures that have contributed to that too.
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. But so next question is, do you think this is a temporary situation or long-term shift of failing Canadian dream or middle-class dream, whatever you choose it to name it?
I don't think it's temporary. I think the state of the world right now, everybody's situation is going to change.
Okay.
I think that I think we've reached a point where there's no going back.
Okay.
I think we've passed the point of
Fix it.
fixing it.
Okay. So next question, 14. How does life today compare to what your parents' generation experienced?
Well, the technology is the big change, right? The big difference.
Yeah.
You know, my mom growing up, she was 15 before they ever even had a television, never mind a telephone. You know.
Yeah.
So now we have our little pocket computers that go with us everywhere, and we have access to things right at our fingertips. You can order things online and have them delivered the next day, and
and actually we are recording this conversation by this
little pocket computers.
particular devices do that, so
Yeah.
and I'm going to edit, so yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, it's quite different from the parents' generation, but
And I think in some ways things are better, and in some ways they're not.
what would be better than your parents' generation?
Well, the availability of vaccines, for one.
Yeah.
I mean, just in general, the medical advances that have been made in the last 50 years are, you know, diseases that were common back then just don't happen now. Things like, you know, polio, for example. It seemed like every family had been touched by polio back in the 1940s and 50s, and once that vaccine was developed, polio is something that you almost never see anymore.
Okay. So what is getting worse than your parents' generation?
I think violence.
Okay.
People turning to violence as a way to get things to change the way they want them to change. They think violence is the answer.
Okay.
The availability of drugs and criminal elements in the world.
I can see that problem in rural Saskatchewan too. Gang violence and stuff like that. That makes sense. Like
I think there's so many people trying to be heard for various reasons, whatever the reasons are. There's so many different groups of people that want their voices heard that they get lost in the noise and a lot of the time feel that violence is the only way to stand out.
like for this violence or stand out, to be honest, I think first time when I come to Canada, I have a feeling compared to nowadays, Canadian people are much politer. That's how I feel.
They are now, or they were
They were in the
in
past.
the past. I think that has changed. I know a lot of people, like internationally, maybe still have that view, but living here, I don't have that feeling anymore. I used to feel completely safe no matter where I went in Saskatchewan. I don't always feel like that anymore.
I think I'm not 100% sure, or I could get to backfire me being racist or something, but I will be bluntly honest. But partially, I think ethnoculture shift is definitely affecting that change too. So, not necessarily naming particular group or.
I don't. Well, I know that there's a lot more gang violence, and some of that is driven by ethnic groups, and some of it is just driven by drugs.
Or making money.
Yeah.
quick cash and stuff like that.
Yep.
So the 15th question. Do you feel that people still believe Canada offers opportunity, or has that belief weakened?
I think, yes, I think that people still think Canada has opportunities to offer. Especially right now. The state of the world, like, with so many war-torn countries, you know, the Ukraine, for example. There's a lot of Ukrainians that have come to Canada.
Yeah, I've met a couple
right?
of these guys.
Just because it's definitely a safer option than staying in a war-torn country.
Yeah. But I'm also sure they want to go back to the homeland, not but temporary refuge for sure.
Well, yeah.
So this concludes the third segment of interview. Thank you very much, Finn, so far. ですね、次は4番目の質問ですね。So this is the fourth segment of question to Finn about opinion and controversial or surprising topics about this dream. Question 16. Some people say Canada is still one of the best places in the world to live. Do you agree?
Yes.
Give me a reason.
I still think Canada has a lot to offer. I think that we have a reasonably stable government. I think that Medicare, in spite of its challenge, is still better than what's available in other countries.
Yeah.
I can't deny that there are countries that do things better than Canada, but there are also a lot of countries that are a lot worse.
Yeah, I agree that part. Yeah, but
I can't deny Canada is not perfect, and there is always room for improvement.
Yeah. So that's Canadian dream part. So I 100% agree, but for some people have more privileged background, it's kind of disappointed where someone came from developing countries.
Would see it differently.
Yeah, that for them that's paradise. Anyway, so question 70, what policy or decisions do you think have helped or hurt ordinary Canadians the most?
I don't know. I don't know enough about that kind of thing to answer.
Okay. So question 18, do you think rural provinces like Saskatchewan are affected differently than big cities?
Yes. I think the eastern provinces are treated differently than the prairie provinces, simply because of they have higher population densities. So, they get more visibility on their issues than we get on ours.
It's like the very similar many Western Canadian feels like a Western alienation kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree that part. Yeah. Because
it's a fact that the population densities are so different that when it comes to voting, we just don't have the population to outvote the eastern provinces.
I think that the MP is not equally distributed
No.
among the provinces. Like I think.
Well, and they can't be because of the differences in population. It's a numbers game, right?
Yeah, but not necessarily. Like U.S. Congress is like always shifting like a distribution of the MP among the what was the lower house called?
The Senate or the Congress?
Congress. Yeah, Congress is always shifting. Like whereas Senate is like each state has like a 2 representative, right?
Okay.
Yeah, but for Canada, like a parliament elected by voters is not shifting per population. Like census doesn't reflect. Anyway, so okay. So question 19: is there something people outside Canada misunderstood about life here today? I think this is a really interesting question.
I'm not sure that's a question I can answer though, because I have always lived in Canada, so any information I have is secondhand from from people that have come here from outside of Canada. So
I see. So question.
I think.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So question 20. If you could change one thing immediately to restore opportunity, what would be?
That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Okay.
It's the simple answer. I don't know what.
It could be.
I mean, it could be Medicare. It could be economic changes. It could be immigration policies. It could be. I don't think there's any one thing that will.
Okay.
And I don't know if restoring what we had in the past is the answer. Like maybe there's a new path forward that will be better than what we have now and what we had in the past. But I don't know what that is.
So please give me an example. For me, like I like some of the old way of Saskatchewan offered to me. Like back in the days, even this city was much safer than nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some area have like druggies and worried people in this city, but generally speaking, I think lesser crimes than nowadays. So yeah, so that's my personal opinion. But this concludes fourth segment of my question to Finn. これからですね、最後の、質問をしていきたいと思うんですけども、fifth segment Personal Reflection and Wisdom ということで、なんていうんですかね、個人的な感想というか、あと知恵とかそういうことをね、フィンさんに聞いていきたいと思いますが、ではそう、this is the last segment of this loaded question to Finn. The 21st question. Looking back, do you feel you achieved the life you hoped for?
No.
Compared to this standardized Canadian dream.
No, I don't think I did.
Give me an example. Why?
Well, just in the fact that I was not able to have children.
Okay.
Part of the Canadian dream is the house, the husband, the kids.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like that has been my experience.
That kind of my reflection too, because I couldn't achieve that part as well. So it's kind of disappointed too, because so that is kind of not necessarily Canadian dream, but
I think that's a dream that most people have,
Yeah.
right? Is to,
in any culture. So
yeah.
so 22nd question. What sacrifice did your generation make that younger people might not see?
I don't know.
Our generation made a sacrifice.
I don't think I can answer that question
Okay.
just off the top of my head.
Yeah, like for my case, just for sake of economic prosperity, my parents' generation had more stable economic growth, so their personal income growth was somehow stable than my generation, and the job security is much better than my generation due to economic expansion and such in Japan. But I see more, I'm representing people of my generation in Japan, from what I heard from buddy from went to same school and such. They think they cannot, their kids' generation cannot achieve what my generation achieved, which means we are gradually declining to the past generation, whether this my parents' generation, my generation, and my kids' generation, even I don't have kids. So that's kind of Gen Z or more younger people having hard time, not necessarily success, but at least achieve something, but it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Anyway, so 23rd question. What advice would you give to someone in their 20s trying to build a stable life today?
I'm not sure I'm qualified to give advice on that particular topic, just because I haven't figured it out myself yet.
Say, like some people say it's like get into the trade instead of going to university or something. That's one of the buddy was saying, stuff like that, but like wasting 4 some years, more years studying academic stuff.
Yeah.
But that's his personal
But I also think I think some of the handicaps that our generation has around the technology that's available now, like we don't have a really good understanding of how it works half the time.
Okay.
So I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet either, so I don't know that I can give advice
Okay. Yeah, I think
on how to create stability.
I injected too much my take on while interviewing things, so I shouldn't do it, but that's kind of bad interview method. Anyway, so 24th, what give you hope despite all these challenges right now? Do you have hope in this country?
Well, I mean, I have hope, and maybe it's false hope, but I always hope that things can get better, that people will be better than what they have in the past. That governments will correct mistakes, that they'll,
Be better means, can you define be better means be better person or making better choice?
I think making choices that benefit everyone and not just certain economic groups or individuals or that kind of thing is what I mean, I think.
Okay. That's the question. I think initially I created this question in random Japanese and translate to English, so it's kind of twisted idea, but
well, and there's always the hope that things will get better.
Yeah.
But it's not, there's no guarantees that it actually will. And everybody's definition of better, is different, right? We all have our views on what would be better, and it all is dependent on your own personal opinions and philosophies.
Yeah.
So it's hard to pin down for me anyways, I find it hard to pin down an answer.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, but hopefully people getting better choice or whatever they're making in life. So hopefully achieving whatever dreaming in teens or 20s. Because if you turn 40, 50, it's kind of difficult to reach that dream. So, so final question, 25th question. What do you think Canada still does right, other than ice hockey? Which is kind of bad too, but
I still think Medicare is a good program. It's got challenges, but I think having access to free health care,
taxpayer funded
health care, is still a better system than having to pay as you go, especially when pharmaceutical companies are gouging people.
Yeah. insurance company
or insurance companies.
refuse to pay you for whatever the treatment they need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Like relying on private medical care
I see
isn't like there's nothing equitable about it.
that. I think it's kind of dangerous too. That's I'm feeling too. But
Yeah. It's a way to control populations. To keep people poor. Keep the poor poor and the rich rich.
So
I think Medicare is a better system.
In ideal condition.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's not without its problems, obviously, but
so I wasn't volunteer to offer my Japanese point of view, but I didn't say that. But so Medicare is still good thing in Canada. And is there any
I think gun control is also a good thing.
gun control? Anything else like schools, secularism, or kind of getting sketchy topic, but
Those are the things off the top of my head. I don't know enough about.
well, anyway, so thanks for answering so many questions I threw at you today. So
You're welcome.
So this conclude my conversation with one of the Canadian living in Saskatchewan, worried about Canadian dream or whatever such illusion exists or not. どうもありがとうございました。というわけでね、フィンさんとのインタビューを終わらせていただけですけども、どう思われたでしょうか。ですね、これからも他のね方に何人かインタビューをしていきたいと思うんですけども、フィンさんはね一番私のことをよく知ってる人なんでね、ちょっと深い会話ができたんではないかなと思います。では、ご清聴ありがとうございました。